In this week's episode, I conclude my tour around Wałbryzh and start with the Osówka underground city, which is one of the largest excavated parts of the mysterious Riese project. I take a bit of a trek across the Al Mountains to further explore this area and take a brief stop in Walim, ending up at Grodno Castle, which is one of the more significant castles in the area. So I hope you enjoy. Many interesting facts to be discovered about Lower Silesia in this video.
Dzień dobry and welcome to A Brit in Poland. This channel is going to bring you everything you need to know about Poland. I am exploring the country, bringing you the history, trying to tell you about the culture and show you what it is really like to live here. So feel free to check out my other media, Instagram, Facebook, and I will share links to those in the comments. I also have a website, www.britinpoland.com, where I collate my videos for easy to view manner. Also, you are welcome to contribute to my efforts through Patronite or Patreon, and all descriptions are available below the video. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and please come back for more by subscribing, liking, or commenting. Thank you very much. Do zobaczenia.
So, again, the same map, taking you to the southwest of Poland, to Wałbryzh, where I begin my journey. So you can see the kind of route that I took, the first element by train, and then crossing on foot for the rest of the exploration. So here I am at the Wałbryzh station. This may not be the exact train, but it's pretty much equivalent. And I start off in the town of Głuszyca, which is recorded back to 1300 as a bishop's village, home to lumberjacks and shingle workers. And it was destroyed many times during the Hussite Wars of the 15th century. It was later owned by the Hochberg family, who you may be familiar with from my former videos, and became a centre for textiles. And during World War II, it was the location for a branch of the Gross-Rosen concentration camp. And here the builders for the Riese complex were based. Now it's kind of a town of about 6,000 people, and it provided the start of my journey. So as I say, I took the train to get here, walked through the centre, and then headed off to the Al Mountains following one of the many routes through here. I tried to take the most direct route I could find using Google. And so I'm heading into the forest, taking in a bit of calm because everything was pretty much deserted here. And one of the major things I discovered was this little complex here, which was some of the lodgings for the workers involved in the Riese complex that we are going to learn about in more detail on this video. So this was, let's say, a little introduction before I got to Osówka and really started to learn the ins and outs of what's going on. It's worth noting that the last couple of videos also touch on the Riese complex. It's quite a big subject and something I will probably come back to in future years.
I am going to tell you about the mysterious Riese complex. Now, this is a massive underground structure built beneath the Al Mountains in the kind of southwest of Poland. It was built pretty much as a response to the American bombing campaign when they entered World War II. And this complex stretches for miles beneath the mountains. It is still a little bit unknown exactly what the complex was going to be used for. The Nazis who built this, well, shall we say the slave labor that went into building this, burned their records rather thoroughly. So I'm going to show you a few of the sites related to Riese and try and give you a bit of information on the mystery. So please stay tuned.
So I got rather lucky coming to Osówka, and I was able to jump right into a tour. I had to give 100 zloty deposit for the audio guide because apparently some people like to steal them. Good job I had the cash on me, but noted if you intend to visit. So we had about a 40-person group or so wearing our hard hats. We proceeded into the mines. So to give you a bit more context, so the Riese complex was a project that started in 1943. And forgive my German on this, Industriegemeinschaft Schließen AG company was established for construction. And they were using prisoners and prisoner of wars from the labor camps, mainly from the Gross Rosen prison camp, which I visited in one of my other videos. But there were also prisoners sent from Radogoszcz in Łódź, which I believe I've also visited. So something like up to 30,000 prisoners may have been involved, according to, let's say, official Nazi records. Many of them would die due to malnutrition and the harsh conditions of them digging this massive tunnel complex and the whole infrastructure around it. So the whole thing was taking too long, apparently. So in April 1944, the TOT organization, which was involved in a lot of the military construction during World War II by the Nazis, was employed to take over. It said that something like 150 million Reichsmarks was put aside for this project. Something like 257,000 cubic meters of concrete reinforced with steel, building 213,000 square meters of tunnels. There were 58 kilometers of roads with 6 bridges and 100 kilometers of pipelines. So you can see that the engagement from this was significant. And it was a massive project, which it's scary that we know so little about it. The work was only partially completed before the Red Army entered. And many of the underground structures were destroyed, or the tunnels leading to them were blown up. And to this day, only about half the underground corridors remain to be excavated. And it's called an underground city because actually there was water fed through here, electrics were fed through here. You know, it was designed to be a full operational center. And it's still not entirely clear what it was supposed to be used for because the records were destroyed. So, as I've kind of hinted in former videos, there are a lot of conspiracy theories. I mean, the main theory is that it was going to be like, you know, for underground storage. Perhaps there would be munitions stored here. It would be used as a kind of base of operations. Possibly, especially with the Grodno Castle, it was going to be used as one of Hitler's headquarters, because of course this was built in Germany at the time of construction, so this wasn't part of Poland at that time. It's said that there were potentially going to be like nuclear operations here because of the uranium deposits in the mountains, which were harvested by the Soviets later on. And there were all kinds of crazy theories. So nuclear, but also other potential weapons of mass destruction, V2 rockets, perhaps even hiding alien technology unearthed by the Nazis. There are all kinds of crazy ideas. And you have the potential that the missing gold train could be located here. So there was said to be a train absolutely filled with gold that went missing during the Nazi occupation, and it is buried somewhere in this region. I've been to a couple of sites where it could be buried. Sadly, I have not discovered it. Of course, I would turn over the majority of the gold to the Polish government. Maybe I'd take a bar or two for myself, but I don't know, maybe the finder's fee would compensate. So after visiting the complex, which took about an hour, I think I stopped for a bit of food as well in the site there, and getting my deposit back for the audio guide. I went over the mountains, so you're seeing basically dotted all over these mountains are little ruins which, you know, designate workers' quarters or builders' works, or, you know, headquarters for some of the staff. Here you see a, you know, commemorative grave. And like the idea of this entire mountain being one massive construction is pretty incredible. It's scary to think of like the sheer effort that was going to go into the construction of this, and exactly what it would be used for. So it's one of the biggest mysteries in Poland. So if you can get here, it's well worth it. It's not exactly the easiest place to reach. So I had, as I showed you the route, I took a train to a neighbouring town and then had to hike for a few kilometres. It's really much better if you have a car to get around this area. By the end of this video, my feet were falling apart because I had just hiked too much in too short a time, but it was worth it. So you see, I continue to discover these additional ruins as I'm going along, and I haven't even left the mountains yet. So my next port of call was to another entrance, because there were something like 7 entrances to this Riese complex, and the next entrance I was going to go for was in Walim. And so basically I'm just making my way over the mountainside, through the fields, enjoying the scenery. I have to say it was a very pleasant walk, and I got very lucky with the weather at the beginning of May. And yeah, it was just quite tranquil and calm considering what I'd just visited. There are quite a few trails. You can see some of the trail markings. So it's quite a well-connected route for hikers. And finally, I'm getting to Walim, so there's like a little shrine at the entryway and some very colourful beehives. And then I get to the complex, and I'm very excited because I've seen one complex, looking forward to the second. However, the problem I have here is I go to buy the ticket and they tell me there is a 4-hour wait before I am able to go inside the complex, which was quite soul-destroying. And unfortunately, I had another site I wanted to get to, so I wasn't really willing to wait 4 hours. So this is probably going to be one of those places I have to come back to. I believe the Walim part contains a bit more of the armaments which are recorded, but never mind. Walim itself is a city from the 14th century, and it became a centre of linen production in the 17th and 18th centuries. In 1914, an electric railway connected the city, and this was actually one of the first electric railways to come into Poland. And in the Church of Jadwiga, which I'm not sure if it's this church or another one, I forget, there is said to be the mummy of Karl von Zedlitz, who was the creator of the high school leaving exam. And also there are mummies of other members of the von Zedlitz family. The von Zedlitz family was obviously a quite wealthy family that we are going to encounter again later in this video. So after a very brief walkthrough of Walim, stopping to get an ice cream in the heat, and to sit down at any point I could to just rest my aching feet, I carried along. And again, I'm kind of using a combination of Google Maps and some different trail apps to find like the most direct route. But it was a lot of walking through fields, a bit of walking down roads to get to my next destination. But at least I had some pleasant and beautiful views of the surrounding countryside. And I felt like I was following this road for ages. But eventually I reach my target. So this is listed as a lake, but it's also a river. I get confused. But it does have an incredible dam at the end, which unfortunately I missed because I couldn't walk anymore. And then going uphill to get to Grodno Castle, which is the next topic of this video. Unfortunately, I couldn't get the best of views of the castle. It was rather hidden by the trees, but it was still an impressive castle to get to. So this was supposedly built in 1193 by Duke Bolesław I, though there is mention of an English knight who may have built a watchtower here in the year 800. Further development was made by Duke Bernard and Bolesław II, who were behind the Gothic castle walls. But the castle would pass over to Czech hands, notably the Royal Crown, in 1392. The castle was significantly expanded in the years 1545 to 1587 by Maciek von Logau, though it was heavily damaged during the 30 Years' War with the Swedes, who would also occupy the castle. The next owners of the castle were the Zedlitz family, so the family who were buried in Walim, and they would be involved in further changes and restoration. And there was also a Professor Busching, who in the 19th century was involved in a lot of the restorations here. And since 2008, it has belonged to the Walim commune. Now, there are a number of myths associated with this castle. One of the most interesting ones I found was about the beautiful Lady Malgosia, and she was the daughter of the castellan of the castle, and her beauty and her status meant that she was sought by many suitors who her father would deem unworthy because they had too low a status or they didn't have enough wealth for him. She finally fell in love with a poor squire and said that she would only part him upon her death. However, her father found her another husband. And on her wedding day with this new-to-be, Malgosia would take a walk on the cliffs and push her betrothed over the cliff, which, as you can imagine, was a bit of a shock to the wedding guests and would make her father incredibly angry. It is said that he would then lock Malgosia in the dungeon and leave her to starve to death. And as a result, you can apparently see a white lady walking around the castle walls, if you look carefully enough. Perhaps you need to be there at night as well. But it's quite an incredible place to visit. So it's very well restored. There is an inn here where you can get something to drink, get something to eat. And, you know, there are these lots of displays, lots of relics from the time to see. The entry fee was about 35 zloty, I think, or something like that. Nothing too crazy. And, yeah, it's one of the more impressive castles in Lower Silesia. Certainly a tourist castle. It was very busy when I was there. But I'm well glad that I made the trip and can tick this one off my poster. But all in all, this trip to Lower Silesia just gave me so much more motivation to go back to this region. So for sure next year I am going to be seeing a lot more of Lower Silesia, a lot more to see. But thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you found it interesting. So if you want to help me out, please give me a like. If you want to see more, please subscribe. Do zobaczenia.